The 180th Hornet Airborne is an elite Astra Militarum regiment of veteran troopers who specialize in hive city engagements, be it capture, defense, or destruction. Typically, when the Hornets are deployed, it is to either help recapture a hive city's key areas so that a normal regiment need not waste men slogging their way, taking weeks, if not months to do so, or to destroy key parts of a hive city so that the enemy may not use it to their advantage. A deployment of squads of Hornets is preceded by heavy airstrikes from Lightning, Marauders, and Vultures, followed by Valkyries dropping off 3 to 10 squads of Hornets. After deployment, the ground units will be closely supported by CAS, usually Vultures or Vendettas, depending on the situation. If need be, they can request for vehicular support ranging from Taurus for quick maneuvers, Sentinels for helping support pushes, Chimeras for transport through heavy fighting, Hellhounds for burning out entrenched enemies, and Hydras for use in help clear streets or buildings that tower higher than normal Hellhound can aim at. Being such a small regiment in terms of numbers, more of an operations group, the Hornets tend to be deployed alongside other regiments as support rather than sent in on their own. Pilots of the Hornets regiment tend to be highly skilled as well, thanks to the many academies on Elian 5, and often are decorated for their actions in combat, providing much-needed close air support for the men on the ground. The pilots of the Valkyrie transports are often some of the favorite members of the regiment, as without them it would not be possible to even get to the battlefield. Elian 5 is a mountainous planet with few valleys and one large ocean surrounding the main continent of Elian. Hive cities, albeit smaller than normal, dot around the valleys, and some even sit on the sides of mountains. Presently, the main valley, known as the Viridae Agres, is dotted with the stains of war long past craters, old wreckages of many an aircraft, and fields of bones from a war that was fought on the planet centuries ago. During the 39th millennium, a warp storm engulfed the system, leading to a massive rebellion of guard regiments that had begun to worship chaos due to the taint and panic of the warp storm, leaving them isolated. Half of the world was lost to them, including about half of the hive cities on the planet. This led to many a battle taking place in the valleys between hive cities, and near the end, the loyalist Elians found themselves with a problem. Taking a hive city was much more costly than a battle in the plains. That is where the Hornets were born, to retake or destroy a city to minimize casualties. Born out of a necessity to have troops able to move quickly around a hive city, the Hornets' leadership was formed from, at first, those who were well versed with hive city architecture. Troops were mainly volunteers and veteran pilots. When a large enough force was created, they were sent on their first mission to retake Hive City Septum, the outermost hive city controlled by the rebels. Armed with las guns only, at this time the STC for hotshot las guns was not on the planet, they were deployed after a massive amount of coordinated airstrikes on the city to open up as much as they could. Swiftly, the first company of the regiment deployed into the main spire of the hive world and set about disabling the defenses they could reach. Within a day, the majority of the defense guns fell silent, allowing for more close air support. Within a week, the hive city more or less fell, with only a few pockets of resistance holding out in the underhive, but within months they were purged or convinced to rejoin. Notable campaigns: Retaking of Elian 5, M38. After the resounding success of retaking the outer defences of Hive City Septum and the subsequent surrender by the leaders there, the Hornets were given respite to prepare for another assault. Hive City Octum was a decrepit and run-down hive city and had been slated to possibly collapse soon due to a rotting central support. With such an opportunity, Second Company was formed and demolition experts, along with the majority of First Company, were deployed through a massive hole in the lower support wall of the city. Fighting through the underhive was messy, casualties were high, and the men were without air support. However, they managed to get to the central support within a few hours of arrival and planted the charges needed to bring the entire city crumbling down. Escape was easier than getting in, as a path had been cleared and a few Valkyrie pilots were able to successfully navigate inside to pick up the survivors. Casualties were devastating for the group. Only 60% remaining made it out, and half of those were going to be in bed for days, if not weeks. After such a devastating attack, the rebels began to splinter. Some surrendered wholesale due to fear of loyalists being able to strike that deep, and that precisely. However, the war ended swiftly after contact with the rest of the Imperium came in the form of a rogue trader arriving in orbit. With their ability to contact Segmentum Command, the rebels soon after surrendered, and the lockdown was lifted. Segmentum Command was shocked to find a world with such quality pilots and aircraft, and soon the Elian regiments and the Hornets were being shipped out across the Imperium, though the Hornets tend to be deployed together due to their low numbers. The Cypher Campaign 204 M41. During the Cypher Campaign, the Raven Guard combined forces included a good number of Hornet pilots and the entire Hornet Regiment for assistance. Battles against Hive Fleet Leviathan 997 M41. During Hive Fleet Leviathan's incursion into Segmentum Tempestus, the Hornets were deployed all over the Segmentum to help ill-fated and ultimately fruitless efforts to help bring down Hive cities and also evacuate Imperial citizens ordered to flee by Inquisitor Cryptman. The Hornets are a small group of men and women in comparison to the average Guard regiment, totaling at most 5,000, though the numbers have at times been up to 10,000. There are 5 companies, each totaling 1,000 to 4,000, depending on the company. For example, 1st Company on average has the most men, as they are the frontline combat troops, whereas 2nd Company may have around half that number, and 4th Company tends to have the fewest. 5th Company averages in the middle, normally around 2,500. A squad of 1st or 2nd Company will average at about 10 men and is led by a sergeant or higher-ranking member. A sergeant is the aggregate term. Their rank can be up to captain at times. 5th Company is often much smaller, numbering at most 6 men, plus their sergeant. 1st Company, Alpha Hive, is the first ones in and the first ones out of any combat situation. Often these are a mixed bag of new Hornets, led by more veteran Hornet sergeants and squads of men who are not yet high enough to join the reserves. 2nd Company is the demolition team, the home wreckers. Skilled engineers brought in to either build up temporary defenses or inserted to tear down key parts of a hive city to bring it crumbling down, allowing no tools of the Imperium to fall to any of those who oppose the Guard Emperor himself. 3rd Company is made up of trainees and their trainers, the men seeking to become a Hornet. If they are deployed, it is usually the very last resort, as they would be only comparable to a veteran squad of regular Guardsmen. 4th Company, Buzzboys, is the vehicular experts and the company that pilots of the 180th are assigned to. Vehicular experts will include gunners, drivers, and the mechanics of said vehicles, as well as any mechanicus assigned to the company. 5th Company, the Killer Bees, are the reserves group and usually will be the last sent in. However, much like the Roman legions, these men are far from the weakest or least experienced. To be a member of 5th Company is to be the cream of the crop, veterans of multiple deployments as a Hornet, and, as such, are usually the ones sent in to support a 1st Company deployment that is struggling. They are differentiated by the pure black uniform they wear and the polished gold of their guns. To see them on the battlefield means that the command is pulling out all the stops. Regimental recruitment and training. Hornets are guardsmen from other companies and regiments of the Elian Guard, and to be chosen for a regiment is a massive honor, for not just any veteran is chosen. A veteran must show excellent marksmanship, bravery and daring to be one of the Hornets. Training involves jump pack usage, training the new Hornets to be able to move rapidly around a battlefield. Another area is knowledge of the basic structure of hive cities, and, for the 2nd Company recruits, it will involve where and what it takes to make one come crumbling down. Training usually is a grueling 4 to 5 month period, 5 months if they are 2nd Company, in which they train to be able to do their mission with as few casualties as possible. A Hornet is trained to pull back and call for support rather than attempt to crawl over the dead to achieve victory. Afterwards, the men and women are made full members of the Hornets and assigned to a company and squad. During training, a test is given to see if the Hornet cadet has aptitude for marksmanship, demolition or leadership. If a testee scores average, they are not moved and are placed into the normal Hornet's role. Marksmen tend to be given training with a long lass and other longer-range weaponry, and demolition-skilled soldiers are made part of 2nd Company. The homewreckers tend to be deployed only in scenarios involving the complete destruction of a hive city, usually if the main Hornets cannot hold or retake the city with the numbers they have, or if they lose vital air superiority or support. Those with the aptitude to be a leader are placed in 3rd Company and given more training to make sure they aren't acting green on the battlefield. When they have proved themselves, sergeants are placed in charge of squads who have lost their sergeant and given command of a 10-strong unit of men.